Hi everyone, my name is Helen and you are welcome back to Helena's Corner. I know it's been a while that you've seen me make videos, but there were some reasons for it, but now I'm back. Anyway, let's get right into it. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about discipline versus punishment. What's the difference? Let's think about it. Discipline versus punishment. What's the difference? There's a whole lot of differences between the two, and that is what we're here to talk about. And of course, let's start with understanding punishment. What do we understand by punishment? What do we think punishment is? When we punish a child, our main goal is usually to stop a behavior, right? When we punish a child, our main goal is to stop that behavior or stop the child from acting in that manner and to stop it immediately, right? It's reactive. Punishment is reactive. A child does something wrong and we respond in a way that causes discomfort, fear, shame, hoping that next time they will think twice or it doesn't happen again. Common examples of punishments, we talk about shouting, we talk about screaming, we talk about sending a child to their rooms, we talk about taking away privileges or screen time, we talk about even physical smacking. Yes, let's be honest, it's still quite common in some homes even now, right? And for many of us, that's how we were raised. So I'm not like faulting anyone, but many of us, when we were growing up, that especially for physical smacking, it was one of the ways our parents, raised us. And we need to think about and reflect really, how does punishment impact children or impact us as children? When you misbehaved as a child and you were punished, maybe you were shouted at, maybe you were smacked, or maybe you were made to feel embarrassed in front of others, and so we repeat what we learned because it's familiar. A lot of us, our parenting today is 90% based on the way we were parented, except we unlearn and relearn, right? But that we were parented that way doesn't mean it was effective. Now, let's think about it. The problem with punishment is that it may stop a behavior temporarily, it doesn't teach, right? It may stop a behavior, it may stop that child from acting that way, but it doesn't teach anything. Most times it creates fear, not understanding. Children might start to behave out of fear of getting caught, not out of the internal sense of right and wrong, right? When a child feels fearful or feels humiliated, their brains actually go into survival mode. So they don't process the lessons in these moments. They just shut down emotionally. So when you punish a child, the child behaves a certain way you want them to behave out of fear, not really out of understanding why they should behave that way, not really out of understanding, oh, this is wrong or this is right. It's just, oh, mom or dad says I shouldn't behave this way. And if I behave this way, I'm shouted at, or I'm physically harmed, or I'm sent to my room, or I'm embarrassed, or whatever. So they don't really get the lesson in that behavior. What they get is the fact that this is what will happen if I behave that way. I hope we are understanding, the logic here. Now let's talk about discipline. What true discipline look like? So the word discipline actually comes from disciple. And what does disciple mean? Disciple means to teach and to guide. That's the basic element of discipline. It's to teach and not to punish. When you discipline, your goal isn't to make the child feel bad or feel fearful. It's actually to help them understand their mistake and learn how to make better choices next time. For example, so if your child throws a toy at their sibling, for instance, punishment will sound like, go to your room, you're naughty, or you're being naughty, go to your room, and things like that. But discipline will sound like, that was not okay. Throwing toys can hurt people. We don't throw toys here. All right. You can say things like, you can go further to say, let's take a break for a moment. Let's calm down for a moment. And when we are ready, we'll talk about how to express anger safely. Because I mean, in this scenario, a child throws a toy at a sibling. There's actually something there. So it's either anger, or they're probably, I don't know, arguing or not agreeing to something. And you come in as the parent. What do you do in that situation? It's about making that child know that it's not safe to throw toys, and it could lead to harm, it could lead to bruises, injuries, whatever as the case may be. So it's not about telling the child, go to your room, you're naughty. It's about telling the child why the child should not throw toys, the consequences, and the likely impact on themselves and on other people when they throw toys. So that is the difference between punishing a child and disciplining a child, right? Discipline focuses on building skills. It focuses on self-control. It focuses on emotional regulation. It focuses on empathy and responsibility as well. It's also about saying that you care about the person, enough to teach the person what could come out from a certain kind of behavior. Discipline helps to build the person. It helps to build the child such that the child will understand that this behavior is not right. So let's take, for instance, the example I gave earlier about throwing a toy. By the time the child learns that if I throw a toy at my brother or my sister or whoever, I might hurt the person. I might even hurt myself in the process, and that's not a kind behavior. The next time the child is faced with such situation, the child will not throw a toy, because the child knows that throwing this toy could hurt this person, could even hurt himself, and it's not a kind behavior. That is discipline. And not that after punishing the child, the next time the child is in that situation, the child would probably not throw that toy, because if I throw the toy, mom is going to shout at me. So there are two different scenarios. And by instilling that discipline in that child, even when the child is not at home, when the child goes out, when the child is in the community, or the child is at school, the child will take that um, skill to wherever the child is going to, because the child will know that throwing things at people is not a kind behavior. It could hurt them. It could cause different negative meanings or impacts. Then the child will be able to understand and know that, oh, this is what my mom or my dad has taught me, and I'm not going to do it. But if you punish, when the child is in a situation where you're not present, the child might be like, well, I can as well throw this toy. After all, mommy is not here to tell me off, or daddy is not here to tell me off. So there are two different things. And you really, really need to reflect to understand the difference and be able to instill discipline on your children and not punishment. Now, we're going to be talking about the key differences between discipline and punishment. One is reactive. So, punishment is reactive. Reactive in the sense that the child behaves a certain way and you react a certain way, right? It focuses on control. It focuses on the fact that, oh, I'm the parent here. This is, me in control. While discipline is proactive, it's preventive. It focuses on teaching to prevent a reoccurrence. Secondly, punishment is based on fear and shame. Let's be honest. A lot of our parents, you know, punish so that there'll be that element of fear in your children. So when you're around, they don't get to behave in some certain ways because of fear. Then you need to think about when you're not around, how will they behave? Discipline is based on trust and respect. It's based on trust and respect because you're making your child trust you even more to even be able to explain their feelings and emotions to you. And also, it's also based on respect because you're also respecting the fact that your children have emotions too. Your children can actually feel angry, they can feel sad, they can feel frustrated. And you're respecting the fact that those emotions come, but your role is to teach them how to regulate those emotions, how to control their emotions, right? Because what I noticed is that a lot of parents don't respect their children and don't even want to know that their children are their own people. Just as you feel angry, you feel frustrated, you feel sad, you feel happy, you feel joyful, you feel, different kinds of ways, so also your child. So you need to acknowledge that they also have those emotions and act accordingly. Punishment is short-term compliance, while discipline is long-term. Short-term, well, for that, at that moment, at that point, he's not going to do that, or the child is not going to behave that way. That's punishment. But discipline is long-term because you're teaching the child the impact of that behavior. And of course, you talk about the consequences of that behavior. So even if you're taking away the child's device, for instance, or sending the child to his or her bedroom, or you're reducing screen time, or whatever it is, by the time you get to that level, the child will understand that that is the consequence of that behavior. Now, this child will not see it as a punishment for behaving that way. The child will see it as a consequence of behaving in that way. Now, when you punish, you focus on the past. Like I said, a child behaves a certain way and you react a certain way. So it's not focusing on the present, it's actually focusing on the past. So it focuses on what the child did wrong. But when you discipline, you focus on the future because definitely that child is going to be faced with that situation over and over and over again. So when you discipline, you are focusing more on the future. You're not focusing on what has happened. You're focusing on what the child could likely do when faced with that situation again, even in your absence, right? It also focuses on what the child can do better next time. Okay? And the truth is, discipline takes more patience. A lot of parents don't have that patience to discipline their children. They might just, I don't have that time to have that conversation. But you need to. Disciplining takes calmness, it takes consistency, and you need to know that the reward is really huge. It's very huge. Children who are disciplined and not punished are more likely to come to you when they're struggling. They're more likely to trust you. They're more likely to have those conversations with you about their feelings. They're less defensive, more confident, and more emotionally secure. All right. I've seen this countless times in my work with families. When a child trusts that they won't be humiliated or shouted at, they become more honest. And that's why sometimes you feel like your children are talking to the professionals and not you. It's because you're not giving the child that environment to actually come and speak to you when he or she is struggling with anything. So you need to think about those things. You need to reflect and think about how you treat your child, how you discipline your child. Now, we're going to talk about some common misconceptions. Yeah. And I know that some of you are saying, so are you telling me that I should just let my child get away with bad behavior? No, that is not what I'm saying. Discipline still involves consequence, like I mentioned in the past, right? The difference is that those consequences are logical and respectful, not harsh or humiliating. And of course, You would have had those conversations with the children. So when they do any of those things, they know what to follow. So it's not like your children are not going to like behave, sometimes in a very frustrating way, or, do things that might not, upset you as a parent, but it's about how you control it and how you manage the situation. Now, let me give another example. If your child throws a toy across the room, a logical consequence is that the toy gets taken away for a while, not as a punishment, but as a lesson. Now, there are two different things, because the child knows that they only play with toys when they can use them safely. So if they know that they've thrown a toy across a room, because you've had that conversation with the child will know that, yes, we only play with toys in a safe manner. Even without even going to even pick up the toy and taking it away for a while, they might not even go to pick it up because they know that that's not how they play with toys, right? Of course, you need to calmly set boundaries. Set boundaries, have that conversation with them respectfully. You need to shift your mindset from a controlling mindset to a teaching mindset. All right? You don't have to shout. You don't have to scream on top of your lungs. Just have a conversation with the child. And of course, let them know the consequences of any action or any behavior. Now, how do we move from punishment to discipline? I have several ways or tips I can give you as parents to move from punishment to discipline. One, stay calm before responding. Don't react. Don't be spontaneous. A lot of our parents are it happens and you've reacted in 2 seconds. No. Stay calm before responding. Now, explain. Don't just react. Talk to them. Have conversations. So even instead of saying things like you are rude, say things like, when you speak to me like that, it hurts my feelings. And you tell them, let's try it again respectfully. And they try it again respectfully. Right? Use consequences that make sense. Don't be harsh. Don't be humiliating. Don't embarrass your children. Use consequences that make sense. A child forgets to do his homework or her homework, don't ban TV for a week. That's too harsh. Let them experience the natural consequence of explaining it to the teacher. That's real life learning. All right? Praise positive behavior. Always praise positive behavior. When your child behaves positively, praise them. Don't always dwell on the negative behavior of your child. Praise positive behavior. When they do things like tidy up their toys or their rooms, or probably lay their beds or do their dishes, or clean up after themselves or something, praise them. Don't always talk about just the negative behavior, right? And most importantly, model the behavior you want to see. If you want your child to control their emotions, you should learn how to control your emotions, because they are learning through you. So if you want your child to be able to control his emotions or her emotions, then you should show the child what it looks like by controlling your own emotion. How do you control your emotions at home? What do you do when you get angry? As parents, how do you resolve conflicts within the home? How do you disagree within the home? And I need parents to also know that your children are watching you and they're learning from you. They are learning. In the course of my work, when I see some children and how they resolve conflicts, I don't need to ask the parents how they resolve their own conflicts. It shows in the way the child resolves his or her own conflicts, because children mirror what they see. If they come from a home that is full of kindness, love, secure attachment. Trust me, that's how they're going to be outside. They will be so kind, they will be gentle, because that's what they are taught at home. And not a matter of being taught, that's what they see happen at home. Now, you don't expect to be arguing parents, fighting parents, shouting parents, and you think your child will go to school and not shout? Let's tell ourselves the truth. All right? Now, here's a big takeaway. Punishment controls, discipline teaches. One builds fear and the other builds trust. One ends a behavior for the moment and the other shapes the character for life. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, click on the subscribe button, like, share, and of course, ask questions in the comment section. And if you have any topic you want me to talk about, you can also add it to the comment section and be sure that I will talk about it. Thank you for watching this video to the end. See you in my next video. Bye.